Good day, guys. So we'll be continuing with our CSS classes, and today we'll be talking about Flexbus. Flexbus, and when you hear the word Flexbus, what does it mean? What does Flexbus mean? Talking about that and how to use Flexbus in our code, where to use Flexbus in our code. We'll be diving right into it. Um, we've been taught the basis of been taught the basis of box model that tells us that each element is actually a box. Yeah, each element is actually a box. Right now, we're going to go live so that we'll make sure all our code, once we run it, see our live output. Right now, we don't have anything on our code. As you can see, the browser is empty. Now, we're going to be running something on our code now, on our VS Studio right now. I'm using this concept to um, explain Flexbus. Yeah. So now let's just create a div, just a random div, and then we'll call the div container. Give it a class name of container. Then inside this div is the parent div now. Then we are creating like let's say 4 other divs. Um, let's call these divs. The class name should be box. And then we'll create 4 divs inside this parent div. Now we have our parent div, which is the container. Then we have the child, the children, I mean, which is the box. The div that is named, we'll give it the class name of box. Now we have 4 of that. That means this container has 4 other divs inside it. So this div, if we should check our output, is showing nothing because there's nothing in it. For example, if I should add something in this element, let's say 1, 2, 3, and what? And 4. Yeah. You should check your output. You see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, good. I'll be using this to explain the concept of Flexbus. Now, earlier in our class, in our beginning of CSS, I told us how to style using um, class name. So before you select the class name, use dots and then the class name. What's the class name? The parent class name here is container. This container about these other 4 boxes. Now we'll say dot container just to make our web page more lively. Now we'll start the explanation of Flexbox with this. Let's say container, let's give it a background color. Yeah, give it a background color of like red so that we see what you're talking about. Now go to your our live server. You can see that this main div, the main container that's happening there now has a background of what? Red, while all this still maintains their position. Now, what Flexbox does in our code is that it's a one-dimensional layout. It helps us structure our web pages, how you want each section of your web page to look, where you want them to be. So yes, Flexbox does. It's used for layout. It's actually a display type in CSS. We talked about display before. We have different type of display. We have block, we have inline block, we have flex, we have inline flex, we have grid, and so on. All right. So majorly we are dealing with Flexbox today. Now let's dive deep into our Flexbox class. Now I told you that we've given this main container a red background, right? Now let me change the text color. Let me say the color of everything. Okay, no, let's not do that yet. Now let's style this box. Let's say dot box because the class name is box. Now, once you style this box, it's going to affect these 4 boxes. It's going to affect these 4 boxes. Why? Because they have a class name of what? Box, box, box. So we should style the box. It affects the 4 of them. Let's say for example, each box should have a background color of let's say background color of white. Since our parents or parents div already has a red background. Now let's use a white background for the box so that you see the difference. Each of them, this see, each of them has the white background. Now you see that the red background is no longer there because this once it comes to block elements, div is also a block element. Yes, I'm very sure you were taught in your HTML classes about inline elements and block elements. Now, once it comes to block elements, they take the full width. They take the full width um, of the screen. Yeah, they take the full width. They take 100% of the width. That is why you cannot see the red background because they also take the full width. Now, let me do something. Let's say we change the width to like let's reduce the width and make it 200 px. Now let's reduce the width so that the background will show. Now do you see we've reduced the width. Now very good, you can see. All right, so let's give it a height of like 200 px. Also I want them to be like in form of a square. Now we have 200 px, 200 px. I think this is too big. I don't want it to get out of the screen. Let me give it a height of let's say a height of 100 ps. I think that will do. Right now, yes, 100 ps is enough. Now you can see that there's no gap between these elements. There's no gap between them. Now, right, I'm going to be explaining flexbox, basics of flexbox, so that you understand very well. Once you are writing a block element, it takes the full width and it starts on a new line, right? It starts on a new line. Now, for example, let's say we have inside this container now, outside it will have, let's say, an inline element like bold, let's say bold hello. Then outside this bold we have let's say strong. These are inline elements. Then we'll say hello world. Now you will see that we actually wrote it on the next line, right? This bold on one line, strong on another line. They're supposed to go to the next line, right? But they are inline elements, so they will stay on same line. Now watch, hello and what? They're actually on what? Same line. Do you see that? These ones, they are actually not on the same line. It's supposed to be one, two, three, four, like that, like that, like that. But they are vertically stacked on each other because they are block elements. Div is a block element. That's the reason why they are stacked on each other. Unlike this hello and word that are continuing on same line. All right. So let's wipe that out. We are not needing any of that. I just want to explain why these are stacked to each other. Now, once we come to this parent container, this is where our flexbox begins. Okay, this is where we talk about basics of what flexbox. Now, to use flex, you set your display to what? Your display to flex. Once you set your display to flex, originally it has a direction. They will be stacked horizontally. You see that they are stacked horizontally now. You see, they are stacked horizontally. Now, I want to do something so that you understand this concept very well. The main container that has these four divs, I want to give it a padding so that those elements will have space in the container. So let's give it a padding. I want to use a very big padding. Let's say 10 px from the top and bottom. Let's just use 10 px um, from the top, bottom, left and right. Let's use 10 px for the padding. Now come here, you see that there's space around them now, so that you understand the concept very very well. Now the to make a flex container, you set the display to what? Flex. Now look at these elements, four elements, one, two, three, four. They're stacked to each other. There's no space. You don't even know the difference between them. Now there's what we call gap. Once we add that, let's say give it a gap of let's say 20 px. Now what this gap does is it gives space between each of these elements in the parent container, between each of these box 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives space. This gap gives space vertically and what horizontally. It gives space around them. Now see that they are separated already. That's what the gap does. It gives space between them. Now this is what flexbox does. Flexbox is just about dimension. It's a layout. And it's one dimensional layout. Now, once you set your elements to your parent container to flex, by default they are stacked vertically like this. They are stacked vertically. But if you actually want it to have a display of flex and you still want them to be stacked horizontally like this way, there's what we call the flex direction. Now, there's what we call the flex direction. This flex direction, what it does is we have column, they will be stacked vertically on each other. Can you see? If you set it to column, they are stacked vertically on each other. But because of the gap we gave it, that's why they are having spaces between each other. Now, if you should set it to row, it will be horizontal. Now, let's see. This it is horizontal. Now, if you set it to row reverse, now, instead of it to start from 1, 2, 3, 4, it will start from what? 4, 3, 2, 1. Are we together? Right. This is 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's actually moved to the other side. That is the meaning of row reverse. I hope we are getting the point. If there's any way you actually don't understand, you are free to reach out to me. My WhatsApp number is on the group, Big Chupa. Just reach out to me. I'll be readily available to answer any of your questions. And if there's anything you actually don't understand, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm readily available to answer your questions. All right, let's ride on. Now, let's put the flex direction. I'll comment it because by default it's rule, right? It's rule. Now, this is what Flexbox does. Display flex does. I hope you understand the concept now. Okay, let's do other important basics of flex. Now, once you have something like this, we are done with the parent container for now. Okay, let's deal with the box now. Let's deal with the box. There are other what is it called? There are other things we could do with Flexbox, but now we have content inside these boxes. One, one, two, three. So what I want us to do is center this element, center each of them. This one should be at the center, this should be at the center, this three should be at the center, four should be at the center. All right. Now there are ways you could do it, right? You know, some people will be like, okay, let's just give it padding. Let's give it padding of like since it's stacked here. You know, some people they are very good with something like that. They'll say since the content is stacked here, let's give it padding from the left and padding from the top, so that I'll bring it to the middle. Now I see people doing something like, okay, give it a padding of 50 px, for example. Okay, no, top and bottom. Let's say our top should be 50 px. Then we'll now wait, let's even try this 50 px for all of them. Now you see something, they're actually moving, but these boxes are increasing because what padding, what it does is space inside the container, space inside the container. It's actually giving it space, but it will never bring it to the middle, except there's no original height and width. That's where padding might work in the spacing, in centering a content in it. Now, what we are going to do, we don't need padding here. What we do is set the display to flex, right? Set the display to flex. Now we just have one content here. We are really not going to see the effect of the display flex here, but then I want to center it. That's what I want to do. There are some CSS properties that can only work with flex, right? That's what I want to do. I want to use flex to center this content, this 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once you set it to flex, there's what we call alignment of items. Now, once you align the items to center, now what this does is it centers the elements, right? It centers the elements vertically, as you can see, centers the elements vertically. Then there's other property, we call that justify content. What this does is it centers the elements horizontally. If you should set it to center, now it centers it horizontally. Okay, now let's see. Do you see that the content are actually in the middle now? All right, so I might not be teaching everything you need to know in flex. All right, just read more about it, read more about it. Where you are confused, reach out to me. Okay, I will be readily available to help you out. All right, let's continue. Now this is how to center your content in a container very easily. There's grid. You can use grid. We've not gotten to that. Once we get to grid, I'll teach you how to center element using grid as well. Okay. You can use padding in a case where there's no height and width. All right. Good. So let's ride on. We've seen how to do what we call flex. Now I'll be adding more content to this. Let me just copy this. Okay, let me just copy this. Then I will duplicate it so that we have plenty of it. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have like 8 boxes. What I want us to do now is let's resize our let's resize our browser. I want us to resize our browser. Now look at, I've resized our browser, right? Now you can see that these boxes are shrinking together. They are shrinking together. What if you don't want them to shrink together? Look how nice it looks, right? But once you reduce your browser screen size, they are shrinking together. Okay, look, watch. You see, it's shrinking. You see, they are shrinking, but we don't want it to shrink. All right, we want it to maintain the original height and width we gave it. There's what we can do to actually achieve that. Okay, now let's go to our Visual Studio and work on that. That's what we've displayed it to flex. Now that's what we call the flex wrap. Now what this flex wrap does is to tell you whether to wrap the element or not. Now what we want is we want it to wrap. That is to say, once there's no space enough to allow the container has its original size, it should go to the next line. That's what this flex wrap does. It should what wrap to the next line. That is, all the container must maintain their what their sizes just like this. Once there's no more space for them, they should what they should go to the next line. I'm coming. Should go to the next line. Why is this not wrapping? I'm coming. I'm coming. Okay. Um, flex. Okay, sorry. Um, wrap. Yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. I did a mistake and I added it to the child element instead of the parent element, because this content, all of these 8 boxes are what inside the container, inside the main container, which we give it a class of container. So we don't want them inside this all these boxes. We don't want them to shrink. We want them to what you see. Let's reduce the sizes. It was actually shrinking right from time when there was no flex wrap. I'm coming. Let me remove this flex wrap so that you understand something. See now, they're actually not having the width of 200. What width did we give it? We gave it a width of 200 px. But from here, it's not having that 200 px. It has already shrunk together. Let's give it a flex wrap. You see that they will maintain their what? Their 200 px width. And once there's no more space for it, it goes to the what? The next line. Now let's reduce the size. You see, once you reduce the size, you see they are maintaining what? Their original sizes and going to the next line once there's no enough space to take them. Okay, let's reduce it a bit more. You see now. So that's what this flex wrap does. Do you understand? Okay. So now I think we've gotten the basic knowledge of flex boss, right? How to use flex boss, how to use display flex, and content in display flex. You can read about other content, other stuff under flex boss. Wherever you get confused, you let me know and I'll try as much as possible to explain the concept for you. All right, now let's continue very briefly. Now, in most websites, I'm going to comment this. I'm going to be commenting. I'm going to be removing everything here. Now, I'm going to be explaining how to use this in a standard web page. Now, let's use semantic HTML. Let's start with the header. And in our header, what I want us to do is a navigation bar. Yes, a navigation bar. Navigation bar should have um, home, about, all the sections and the rest of them like that. Okay. So what I want us to do very quickly is navigation bar. Now, in creating navigation bar, it's actually a best practice for you to use semantic HTML. We've created the header. That's because we want the navigation to be on the header page, right? Now, once you want to create a navigation link, use what? The nav tag. All right. Now I've created our nav tag inside what? Our header tag. Now inside the nav tag, once you click on home, it take you somewhere. Once you click on about, take you somewhere like about the page and stuff like that. That's how it is done. Okay, so we are going to be creating what we call the anchor tag. We've been taught in HTML. So this anchor tag, we once you click them, they what? Take you to a particular place, like link you somewhere to another page in that website or outside the website. I want us to create like four. Let's say let's just create four for now. Create four anchor tags. I want us to create four anchor tags. Okay, now for these anchor tags, I'm going to be writing home in the first one, and then about, and then the next one I'm going to be doing services, and let's say about. Now we're just going to create a short navigation bar. Now we've gotten our home, about, services, and about. You can see that this home, about, services, and about, they are sitting horizontally, even though we wrote them um, on each line, right? That's because anchor tag are what? Inline elements, so they don't go to the next line. All right, good. Now what we want to do is create a fine navigation bar. First and foremost, we have the header. All right. Now let's give the header a background. Let's say we are giving it a background color of um, let's say blue. Yeah, let's use blue. We are designing something. We want something beautiful. Now giving it a blue what? A blue background. Now look at this space. The space here. There's also space at the beginning. We don't want any of those space. Right from time I told us about what's it called? Told us about the universal selector. Now this universal selector is denoted as asterisk star, denoted as star. Now whatever you style here will affect everything in your web page. Now any I don't want any padding as in the website. I don't want any padding, and I also don't want any extra margin. Okay, I'm setting all of them to 0 0. Now go to the web page. You see there's no longer space at the beginning here, and there's no space at the top again. You get? That's what this does. This universal selector, it affects the whole page. Okay, good. Now we've made our header background of blue. Let's give it a height. Let's say we want the height to be like let's use 50 px for now. I'm giving it a height of 50 px. You see, having a height of 50 px already. Now good. Well, what we are going to be doing next is styling the nav. Now to pick the nav, what will you do? You do nav, right? Now what we want to style in the nav is we are setting the nav which contains all of this, all these three, all these four. We are setting it to a display of what's this? Setting it to a display of flex, right? Normally they are already inline elements, right? So you will not really see the effect of the display flex. One of the ways to know that yes, this display flex is working is without this display flex, originally these elements they are stacked horizontally, but there will be spaces between them. Alright, but there's space from after home, there's space before about, after about, there's space before services. Now let's include our display of flex. You see that there will be no space between them. Did you see that now? There's no space between them. Now I've told you before to give them space, what you do is give it a gap. All right, now let's give it a gap of like let's say 10 px for now. We'll be increasing them later. 10 px for now. Now look at, they already have the space of 10 px. Okay, now we want to center all of this, all this home about services. But I want to bring them to the center here, and they should be at the middle. All right, I just explained that. Let's do that very quickly. This nav is inside where? It's inside the header. So you display the header to what? To flex. The main container. Now you display it to what? To flex. All right, you've displayed it to flex. Now come here. You are not seeing the effect yet. Why? Because this nav bar, all of this is inside the nav bar. This nav bar, and this nav tag is inside the header. So this header assumes it has just one tag inside it, which is the nav. The rest content are inside the nav. So styling the header, it will not affect this anchor tags inside the nav originally. It will just affect the nav. This display now is affecting just the nav. Let's say for example we have let's create another thing. For example, just create, come, let me just copy and paste this now so that you understand what I'm talking about. Control C, copy, let me paste it. Now watch. Let me remove this display of flex so that you understand something. Without this display of flex, they will be stacked horizontally and vertically. Sorry, do you see? They are vertically aligned. Now, once you display flex, the both of them are what? Are horizontally aligned. Do you see it now? Good. So that is just the content I want to explain to you. So we'll just return it back. Okay. Now, to bring it to the middle, I told you there's something you could use. We have align items. You center it. Your justify content, you also what? Center it. Now they will be at the center. This it now is already at the center. Now this align items and justify content, you can put different things. Let's say justify content. Now you put it at let's say end. Put it at end. Do you see? It has gone to the end. All right. So you can use plenty things. Let's say you put it at start. There are plenty other stuff you can use. Do you see it now? Okay, good. But we want it at the center. That's why we're using center. One thing you need to know about coding is playing around with it. Try other values in this align items. Try other values on your own and see what result it gives you. With practicing and playing around with code, you get to learn more. All right. So now, these are written in small letters. Let's make them capital letters. What you do is, what do you want to make capital letter? Is it is it the header, is it the nav, or the anchor tag? What want to make the capital letter is what? The anchor tag. This home about services, they are written inside the anchor tag. So what you do is pick the anchor tag. Just say nav because they are inside the nav. Then we'll pick A. All right. Let's give it a color. Want the anchor all our links, want them to be in let's say white color. For example, let's check it out. All right, they're in white color already. Now want them in capital letter, there's what we call text transform, and then to make them capital letter, you put it in uppercase. Right, you can play around with other values that are there. Do you see it now? They're all in capital letters. But then look at this underlined underlining under them. We don't want them, we want to remove them. What do you do? There's what we call the text decoration. This removes any line. Text decoration, you set it to none. Right, now the line will remove. You see there are no more lines. Okay, now if you want, maybe you don't want underline, you want what we call dashed. You see there's dash line. It's not showing very well, but there's what we call dash line. There's underline, there's line through, there's line through. I think this will show. Yeah, you see line through. Okay, so there are many other things you can play around. We just try other values. For now, we're using none. Okay, now just see it. Good. This is just the basics of what flex boss. Now, maybe we want extra spacing between each of these elements. You can just go here where we give it a gap of 10 px. Let's say this gap is too small. Let's make it 50 px. I'll just make it 50 px, and you see there are spaces what between them. Just enough. That is just very simple how to use Flexbox. I use Flex to display your content, just like the way we did in that previous one. I had 4 boxes. Now if you want any element inside that box one, you put the element inside that box one. If you want anything inside that box two, you put it just like that. That's how you style your web page. Okay, I hope we are good. Now, if you have other questions as per regard Flexbox, let me know. I'm readily available to answer all your questions anytime. Okay.